Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. Boys and girls, I am all sorts of excited to talk to you. I'm going to give you guys my monologue, thoughts on everything from the game, the Haason Reddick conversation. We'll go into some of the chat, and then I'll drop the call-in link in there. We'll go till about 10 o'clock. So without further ado, let's hop into this video. We'll talk a little bit about the topics that I had prior to the game against the Commanders that I want to talk about real quick. Then we'll jump into the Haason Reddick of it all. My first and foremost topic was, how is Joe Tippmann going to play in this first game? Are we going to see the high snaps? Are we going to see some struggling? I thought he played relatively well. He didn't have a whole lot of snaps. I think maybe 10 on the day. So not enough to really feel either more comfortable or feel concerned about. I thought it was fine. So I can move on from Tippmann, at least for right now, but it's something I'm going to keep an eye on moving forward. The running backs and the O-line, oh man. Yo, I was pumped on Braylon Allen coming out of college, and oh boy, did this cat deliver. 9 yards per touch or per carry or whatever you want to call it. Just, he's going to be painful to bring down. That's the quality of back we got in Braylon Allen. And then you look at Isaiah Davis. Isaiah Davis looked pretty good too. Catching the ball out of the backfield, making some guys miss. Very happy with the two young running backs that we have right now, and it makes me feel better, not in the event that Breece were to go down. If Breece were to go down, you can't replace that type of production. But I feel very good about giving Breece more rest, and I don't feel like we're losing as much as we did last year with having Dalvin Cook on the field or having 𝐂𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 on the field. I think Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis are going to push Izzy off this team. And I know we don't have a running back 4 right now, so maybe there's some way Izzy does sneak into that role. But man, I'm looking forward to seeing these running backs the rest of this season and the rest of the preseason as well. Now, as far as the offensive line goes, we didn't get to see our starting guys outside of Tippmann. Did AVT play? You know what? Now I'm drawing a blank on if I saw him play or not. We saw Tippmann play. We didn't see the 2 tackles play. So we didn't see Moses. We didn't see Tyron Smith. We did get to see Olu Fashanu. If you haven't checked out the Every Snap from Olu, I do have that on the channel. You can check that out. I was pleasantly surprised with how Olu performed game 1. And that's not against like the most studly of studly people, but I'm feeling very good at where he's at in his current development. Did you guys catch the fake punch, the fake jab that he tried to do? Successfully he did. I shouldn't say tried to do. He mimicked what Tyron Smith does. Like, oh, this is everything you want in a veteran player coming in. And teaching young guys their techniques or little subtleties to their game. This is game 1 and Olu's picking this up. We've got 17 regular season games and we got the rest of training camp for this cat to figure more stuff out. I love what we've gotten from Olu so far in just this very, very small sample size. And I can't harp on it enough. The difference in mentality from the guys that we drafted this year who they were replacing could not be further apart from one another. You have Olu Fashanu, who says, I'm willing to play anywhere across the field. I want to earn my reps, whatever. Mekhi Becton, I'm a left tackle. Not a right tackle, not wherever you can help me. No, I'm a left tackle. So we replaced his ass. Then we get a Malachi Corley in here. This dude he was offered NIL money to leave Western Kentucky, and he said, no, I'm staying with my guys. I'm going to stay loyal to my commitment. Love that. Love me some Malachi Corley. Then you got the running backs coming in. Both Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen want to knock you on your ass in terms of blocking pass protection. Dalvin Cook, he was running. He didn't want to be anywhere near a block. And then Izzy's too small. He couldn't throw up a block. So these two guys are ready like, oh yeah, my favorite thing, I want to decleat a blitzing linebacker. That's the type of guys we brought in. And then you get, very different entrances to the NFL. Zach Wilson coming number 2 overall, all the expectation and all the hype and all the drama that wound up coming around that. And then you have Jordan Travis, who had his dream essentially stolen from him. This kid could have been a second-round pick, wound up falling in the draft because he had that terrible leg injury. He's going to be on IR. But the mentality coming in, I feel like, Could not have been further apart from the 3-car garage type kid that Zach was coming into the league and all the rumblings that we heard coming in. Overall, what I'm trying to say is I am very happy with where the Jets are with their young players right now. Very, very happy, particularly at the running back position and the offensive line. Now, where I'm giving a little bit of concern, I don't love what I've seen out of Will McDonald so far. And this is still early on in preseason. It's not the finished script, but these were not starters, and Will McDonald was not really showing out the way I would hope that he would show out against these particular players. For being a number 15 overall pick, you got to be able to provide some juice off the edge. He had a filthy spin move that I think probably shouldn't have been called for unnecessary roughness, roughing the passer. I think that was a little soft. Kid's got a lethal spin move. I'm still excited for him, but I did do an every snap video for Will McDonald, and it did not get received well in the Twitterverse. People were not happy with how Will McDonald looks. So if you want to check that out, those videos are live up on the channel. So Will McDonald, is he going to perform better in these next few weeks? I don't know how much we're going to learn from the Carolina game. And then even I guess the Giant game's probably our next one, and that's if they play Andrew Thomas and some of their starters. Like if we catch all the backups these next 2 weeks, I'm not going to feel super confident about Will McDonald, and it probably forces your hand a little bit more on the Haason Reddick thing. So we're going to go into Haason Reddick in just a moment here after I get through all this. Malachi Corley. He got to see a good amount of snaps. I think I wound up doing like about a 3.5 minute highlight reel or every snap reel for him. There were some opportunities to create some really big plays that he just, kind of missed. Not a huge deal, but he'll get that ironed out as things progress forward. You saw him maybe used, I don't know if it would be saying he was used as a decoy so much, but it felt like we didn't have a crazy ton of success on the offensive side. But we had like a few, I feel like the running game is where we really shined early on in this game. And you didn't get to see the highlightingness of Corley other than like the hyper awareness. That was very cool. It was nice to see him catch that ball when it popped out of Kuntz's hands, like just right place, right time. He's just a very crafty, scrappy kind of player. I'm looking forward to seeing what we get out of him the rest of this regular preseason, not regular season, really. And then Stiggers. And this is I'm gonna piggyback off Quantez Stiggers too and throw in Jared Bernard Converse. Converse had himself a hell of a game. He had that one long pass along the sideline where he just got a perfectly thrown ball by Jaden Daniels. You cannot compete against the perfect pass. If you have the perfect pass coming in, it is what it's going to be. It's going to land in the receiver's hands. Like he was in the hip pocket of the receiver. Overall, very, very happy with Stiggers and with Converse. It makes me feel like, hey, you know what? Maybe we can pay Michael Carter II. That hefty contract, which I think most of us were on board with doing anyway. Reed more than likely going to be gone at the end of the season, not because we don't want to hold on to him, but because he's going to be worth so much more money than the Jets are realistically going to be able to pay. And then Eccles is gone at the end of this year. So we're going to be looking for cornerback help. So Stiggers and Converse at least showing out right now, feeling pretty good with where the Jets are potentially looking here in just a little bit. So very, very happy with where we have come this far. Now, as far as the new stuff that has come out, today we heard Haason Reddick has requested a trade from the New York Jets, and this is just absolutely absurd considering where this guy was just a few months ago. He comes into training camp. He has this whole spiel of, or I shouldn't say training camp. He comes into the press conference after we traded for him, and they ask him about his contract. All right, are you going to hold out? Are you looking for a new contract? Is it a one-year deal? Are you looking for some? Oh, I'm on my contract. I'm going to be here no matter how long I'm here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be on the field. All that good stuff. That was a lie. I feel like Maury right now. It's ridiculous. That was like, to go back on that kind of thing is really frustrating from a fan perspective, first and foremost. Now, I can rationalize it from like a football player standpoint. Like, you got to get your money while you can because it's the not-for-long league, and I understand that side of things. I saw someone comment, if Haason Reddick wanted to play on this current contract, he'd be playing in Philadelphia. And the overarching sentiment of that stance, I believe. I think if he was happy with his contract, he would have stayed in Philadelphia. Now, the part that falls apart in that argument is that Philadelphia didn't have a crazy ton of cap space, and by signing Bryce Huff, they could sign him to a new deal and drop that initial base salary for that first year of his contract, and it's really not that bad. With Reddick, they could cut him and save that $15 million, but you couldn't hold on to him because you didn't have the cap space. The Jets, on the other hand, have this cap space because we traded away John Franklin Myers, because we have the extra cap space in the arsenal. We have the ability to take on this contract and basically tell tell Haason Reddick, look, dude, we've got your rights. You want to have more guaranteed money, something like that? You got to play ball with us. We hold all the cards right now. And I'm sure that didn't sit well with Reddick. Or at least maybe maybe he's thinking of it behind the scenes and he's like, this kind of stinks. We wind up trading JFM and now all of a sudden, the leverage has changed. The Jets really got to win a Super Bowl. Now's the time for me to make this move, to hold out. And Frankie from Flatbush said it in the last stream that we were in, that his agents are no dummies. And my initial thought was his agents are dummies. And if his agents are not dummies, that means Haason Reddick is the dummy. He's the one causing all of it. So I don't know who you're getting your information from or who you're getting your advice from, but ask Le'Veon Bell exactly how much he feels he benefited from sitting out an entire year. He lost an entire salary. Are you going to sit down and say, hey, I'm 30 years old, $15 million, screw that. I'm going to get a nice contract at the end of this. Someone's going to pay me. There's already rumors your ass sat out or at least took your foot off the gas at the end of last year. You didn't have a single sack in the final 4 games of the season, Haason Reddick. And then there was rumors and rumblings about teammates and players not really loving him, and we kind of made a little bit of fun of it. They had said he was chasing sacks. Look, it's his job to get sacks. I'm not going to ding him for that. But if his stats are slightly inflated and he was trying to take his foot off the gas, not to mention he took it way off the gas in the last 4 games, and then you have all this going on, who the hell's going to pay you $25 to $28 million a year next year? Sorry, asshole. You're going to have to go and wait. You got to go through this whole year. You got to play for the Jets if you want to get a big contract next year. And forget a long-term deal. Joe Douglas is not signing that. I hope he doesn't sign it. As a Jet fan, I don't want to see Haason Reddick here for longer than this year. You can go back to my initial video where I said, this doesn't feel good because it either means we're going to sign him to a long-term deal, and I don't like that, or it's going to feel good because he's on a 1-year contract and we're going to recoup this 3rd-round pick at the end of the year. So I think Joe Douglas was thinking that way, and we're just going to let his ass ride off into the sunset after this season, and it wouldn't have mattered. He can get his contract. We get the dude competing right now to get the contract he wants. And that's the type of player that I do want. But Haason Reddick doesn't want that contract. Didn't want that contract coming in. He's from Philadelphia. Wanted to play in Philadelphia. So, in my mind, I'm just super sour. I'm super sour on this. I would not guarantee Haason Reddick his money right now. He's got to show up to camp, even if he does a hold-in. You do a hold-in, you start having conversations, you start showing up to the meeting room. Now we'll have a conversation. You want to guarantee your contract for injury? Sure. You want to add incentives? You know what? If you're going to add incentives to raise your contract up, if you take plays off or you wind up having some type of detriment, I want something knocked back the other direction. I don't think you have earned the undying loyalty of the Jet fans and of this front office. You went back on your word, and to me, long-term deal or 2-year contract or whatever, off the table. I would not consider it in the slightest. So you guys can let me know how you feel about that. That was me venting right now. I had this pent up inside me at work the entire day, and I just wanted to ramble and rant. So we'll get into that. I will take your questions just a little bit as far as the live call-in show goes. I see some people sitting backstage right now. I'm not going to pull you into the studio until I go through some of this stuff first, and then we'll pop in. We'll call it 9:30. I'll start taking calls. Cuddy comes in, says, Allen and Corley look like stud muffins. You the man. Thank you, Cuddy. So I'm happy with the Corley selection. Admittedly, prior to the draft, I don't know if I had Corley in any of my mock drafts, and that wasn't to say I don't like him at all, but I had Allen in a bunch of drafts. Allen was my guy. That was the one that I was super pumped on. But I do think both of them are going to be really good, so I'm very excited for that. Aaron Honore says, was this similar to the to the Ravens situation. Aaron, were you in my group chat that I was in before, or do I actually know you? I brought this up to my friend earlier today. Got a group text with it going with a few buddies. And is this similar to the TO situation? So I don't remember the TO situation super clearly. My buddy actually helped me remember part of it. And I guess there was some sort of contractual language within TO's contract where he was going to be a free agent. He was traded to Baltimore because the 49ers thought he was still under contract. There was some sort of litigation that was going on. And ultimately, the Ravens deal, I think, fell through or was like a weird three-way trade in some capacity to make it work. And he wound up going to the Eagles after all was said and done. And I don't think they wound up litigating the issue because he wound up getting a new deal from Philadelphia anyway, and everyone was just kind of happy, and they were like, all right, let's just, move on with this. But yeah, I would say it's kind of similar to that. I would not trade Haason Reddick because this is a statement move. If you're the New York Jets and you're looking at your locker room right now, you're saying, look, we got Sauce, we got Breece, we got Garrett, we got 𝐿𝐼𝐸𝐻𝐸main coming up on big contracts right now. We can't fold to what this guy wants. He's just coming in here the first time. He hasn't proven anything on our team yet. And he's not doing it the right way. You got to show up to camp. Like we're seeing, credit to Michael Carter II. Dude showed up to camp in a contract year, knows he's one of the best slot cornerbacks in the league, knows we need him because we're going after a Super Bowl, winds up getting banged up a little bit, has a lower leg injury. I think he is back practicing now, but he shows up and he's doing the right thing. So I would hope Joe Douglas, by the time we get to mid-season, has inked Michael Carter II into a new contract. I think you should pay the guys that A, perform, and 2, hold up the standard of quality and the way you are a New York Jet to show the rest of the team, hey, we know Sauce, we know Breece, we know Garrett, we know 𝐿𝐼𝐸𝐻𝐸main. These 4 guys are basically the epitome of what we want the New York Jets to be. I don't think you should pay Haason Reddick based on this current attitude and current way he's handling it all. So kind of annoying here. Boys and girls, this stream is brought to you by BetUS. If you guys have not done so, and you wanted to check out, this is not what I was pulling up. Pardon me, just one second. We'll go into the actual footage of the conversation that Haason Reddick had and whatnot. But if you guys have not done so already, and you want to check out BetUS, the link in the description down below. I believe Nightbot is posting it in the live chat too. Plus 160 for 30+ touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers. This is a bet that I would look at 9 times out of 10. I'd call it 10 times out of 10, but I don't want to be 100% all the time. But very, very much think that Aaron Rodgers can get to 30 touchdowns with one extra game. 31 touchdowns is the record by Ryan Fitzpatrick, 2015. Decker and Marshall. This team is better. Aaron Rodgers is better. I don't know if our weapons are better. Receiver-wise, top 2 wide receivers really good. Our top 2 wide receivers, I think Garrett Wilson's better than Marshall and better than Decker. I think Mike Williams can be better. I think he could get a bunch of touchdowns by himself, just jump balls. So if you guys want to head over to BetUS. They're going to match your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Go do it. Try to win some money. That's what I'm doing this year. And if you guys want to check out my top 5 favorite bets, I did link that in the description down below. So you can click on that and you can see the 5 with the current odds. Just click on it. Odds may have changed a little bit, but right now, plus 160 for 30 touchdowns from Rodgers. I think you'd be silly not to do that right now. All right. What are we talking about in the chat here? Hamskull says, A, perform. 2, what was number 2? 1 was perform, 2 was act the way you're supposed to act as a New York Jet. That's where I'm going with this. All right, let's see. We'll go over to the call-ins. I want to hear from you guys. Working on getting this going the right way. So let me see if I can, trying a new system here. I'm going to keep everyone else waiting in the back room while I allow our first guest into the room. But he might have to accept. All right. There we go. But he might have to accept. All right, Charles. All right. Charles,
there we go.
Why do I have feedback?
You might have to accept. All right, Charles.
Fix your audio, Charles. I muted you. All right, try it again. Whoops. All right. Can you hear me, Charles?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, buddy.
All right, here we go. 3-minute timer on the clock. Let's hear it. What do you got to say?
I enjoyed the game. I thought it was very, very good. Olu Fashanu looked like a stud, too. I was very happy about that. That's why we drafted him. He looked like, a really good successor to Tyron Smith.
Fingers crossed.
Brandon Allen, fingers crossed, knock on wood, if he stays healthy and he learns more from Tyron Smith. Brandon Allen looked good. Malachi Corey looked good. Oh, wait, we're here to talk about that idiot, Haason Reddick. I'm sorry.
Look, I'm down to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But Haason Reddick is definitely on the forefront of people's minds. So what are your thoughts on where this is going right now?
Hopefully this gets done before the beginning of the season. I pray to God that Joe Douglas, which I think he is a man of his word. I know a lot of people are criticizing him for trading for Haason Reddick, but here's the thing. Joe Douglas is not always responsible for Haason Reddick's actions. Haason Reddick's a grown-ass man, and right now Haason Reddick's acting like a spoiled little man-child.
All right, I like that. I can appreciate that. I think there is some... I think you can't absolve Douglas entirely, because we knew this going into this whole situation. Even though Reddick said he wanted to play on this contract, you read the tea leaves, it was like, this dude's not happy on his current deal. Like, what makes you think he's going to be happy here after not being happy there? Like, I get that Reddick said it, but I think there is still some degree of blame to be put on JD.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to get any blame. That's not what I'm saying, but I mostly put the blame on Haason Reddick than Joe Douglas because, Haason Reddick's a good player. I understand he wants to get paid, but the thing is, there's a lot of really good edge rushers in this league, and Haason Reddick, to me, looks like he wants to get the Danielle Hunter deal. The thing is, Danielle Hunter has been more productive than Haason Reddick. I mean, last year, Danielle Hunter, who I personally think is a future Hall of Famer, I mean, the guy had 16.5 sacks last year.
I'd have to look at where he's at, total.
He's got 87.5 career sacks, Danielle Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a stud. But
he's a beast. I know a lot of Jet fans wanted him too.
I know.
Along with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
I wanted him too.
Hendrickson was a popular ask before he wound up going to Cincinnati. A lot of people wanted him instead of Lawson.
That's very true too, but people need to understand, I can understand why the Jets got Carl Lawson, but remember, Trey Hendrickson, his first 3 years were nondescript. Then 2020, he really turned on the gas. But he was very good.
He was productive in the snaps that he had. I think he still had 11 or 12 sacks the year that he became a free agent, and then when he was really
13.5 actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say I knew it was pretty decent going into it, but going into his Cincinnati career, he's been a stud. Charles, thank you so much for the call. You have been ejected from the cockpit. Get out of here! All right, Charles has been ejected. We've got Cameron and then Jake. I'm going to let both of you guys in the chat, and I just don't know. I'm curious to see how this works, so I am playing with this a little bit. So let's see. I'm going to mute Jake right now as I get Cameron in here. So let's do this. All right, Cameron, how you doing, dude?
I'm good. I see we have a new setup tonight.
Yeah, I'm trying some new stuff, trying to get some better image quality. I think my computer is just screaming at me, and it's kind of figuring it all out. My little dock that I have for my computer was like 150 degrees before, stupid hot. So that doesn't help anything. But hopefully we're a little bit smoother right now. How'd you feel about the game, and how you're feeling about Haason Reddick?
The game, I mean, I thought it was good. I was impressed by Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin. He looked a lot better than I thought he would, especially in his first action. Yeah, I know it's against third stringers, but you can see the explosiveness, you can see the power, you can see the willingness to take on hits, basically. I thought Fashanu played well. He did look a little over his skis at times, but at the same time, he's a rookie. So what do you kind of expect against guys, even if they are third stringers, they're still NFL players. Look at someone like Corley. He looked nervous of all of them. I guess it wasn't his best showing. I was expecting more out of him. I think he was thinking about his hands from what I watched, and I appreciate the cut-ups you do where you show us the highlights of the players, because I can kind of focus in on what they're doing a little bit more.
That's honestly my own, like me doing it for myself too, is like, okay, I can like focus in on this one guy just a little bit more. But I agree with you. I think there was some degree of hesitation with Corley that like felt like he just wasn't comfortable just yet. I didn't feel bad, but I just you could tell a little bit.
Right. And I think a lot of it's okay. He's learning a new route tree, because he's not going to run the same thing he ran in college. He's catching passes from a new quarterback. He's running a new offense. There's all these things you got to pay attention to. When Allen is a running back, it's take the ball, find the hole, run through hole. Fashanu, it's keep the guy in front of you away from the quarterback. Like their jobs, while they've changed, haven't really changed. The receiver's got a lot to pay attention to.
Especially coming in the slot too. You're kind of breaking any which direction. It's not like you're just an outside receiver where you have a more limited route tree on the outside.
Right. And so I was happy with the rookie class. I think we got a lot to look forward to. Will McDonald seems to be coming along, which is nice. Which I think correlates well.
I didn't feel good about Will McDonald. Like watching his every snap, I was like, this is underwhelming. I'm definitely concerned. Maybe not like long term, but like right now, I'm definitely not feeling great.
I think I'm trying to put some positive spin on it here because of what's going on with Reddick, even though I do think Reddick overplayed his hand. Demand a trade from the Eagles, who are, we all know, a good organization. I know my time is up, but so, and then to come to the Jets and suddenly be like, okay, I want to be traded from you too. Well, it doesn't really work like that. You might be able to shove your way out the door once. This isn't the NBA. Players don't get coaches fired. Players don't get traded every time they get upset about something. I like that Joe Douglas was willing to say, yeah, you're stuck. And if he wants to sit out the year and miss his 17 million, whatever it is, and then become a free agent, he's basically toxic at that point. So
and I think his contract tolls. I think unless he does like a hold in where he's actually at camp with us or like in season with us, I'm pretty sure his like contract tolls to next year, and we wind up having him under contract for 2025, which is bonkers.
Yeah, he definitely overplayed his hand.
Yeah, he's getting some bad advice, or he's just doing the wrong thing. Cameron, I have to put up
have a good night,
Mark
sir.
Riz's comment. He goes, "This is a little ridiculous." Get it, Reddick? Ridiculous. You've been ejected.
We need T-shirts.
You're out of here. You've been ejected from the cockpit. I like that. Maybe we'll do some T-shirts about ridiculous. I'm sure people have probably done that already if they have not done so yet. All right, let's go over to Jake. Let me just figure out what I'm doing here. This is a new setup for me, so I'm just a little discombobulated on this end. All right, Jake, how you doing, dude?
Can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear.
All right. I never saw Zoom with this before. That's just a little new with me, but
it's totally new to me too. So I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, let's. I guess I was right about this getting worse. I no one wanted to hear it. Everyone thought I was being a negative Nancy, like most Jet fans in these groups. But yeah, it's getting worse. This is what we thought it was going to be. That he wants Brian Burns' money. He's going to continue to believe he deserves Brian Burns' money. We're not giving him Brian Burns' money. So the minimal options they have right now is give him a 1-year extension. I'd say at this point, give him a 1-year extension. I think that's really going to end this problem because that's really what we wanted. Is because we got 2 years of Aaron Rodgers left. I suggest you just give him 1-year extension. You don't guarantee the money this year. You can guarantee the money next year. You can put incentives this year because of the fact he hasn't shown up to camp. Maybe they will give him a guarantee. I don't know. I'm just telling you right now, they're not giving him a 3-4 year deal. And right now, they're just going to sit back and say, we'll just find the hell out of you for the rest of the year if you don't want to keep doing this. But at some point, he has to, if he wants to get paid, if he's not going to get this 1 year extension from us, is get on the field and play. But he's not. He's just going to show up and he's going to pull his hamstring and he's going to be out till week 5 or 6. I'm telling you that right now. That's what's going to happen. I've said that before to you, and I'm
signing him for the extra year now, or like guaranteeing money and making it a 1 year contract, you think getting him in right now will help neutralize the injury potential of like the hamstring, and that in and of itself is more worth it than rolling the dice and like playing hardball with him to try and get him to come in? Because I agree with you. I do think he is going to wind up showing up at some point, but he may wind up getting injured. We saw it happen with Revis too. When he held out, he wound up pulling a hamstring. So is that sort of,
the question?
Am I right in that assessment?
So one of my point is that what exactly do the Jets want from him? I think at this point now, we are now into August 12th. What is the Jets' plan with him? Was this really just a 1 year rental? Was this really if it is, then screw it. Then don't give him anything. Then just say play or you're not playing. I mean, that if that's really, I don't really know what Joe Douglas's true intention was. I just don't. I think in the end, the best compromise before training camp was give him a 1 year extension through the Aaron Rodgers years. And then after that, let him go into free agency and at least get some guaranteed money out of it. He doesn't feel like he got nothing, like the Eagles gave him nothing. Even though the Eagles, I still think, did the right thing. And that's what it was. But they should have done that before. It's getting later and later into that now, because now you run the risk of injury, which is what's going to happen. And he's going to miss those games. It's just physics, dude. Like, I don't see how else it's going to see different than that.
So I think from the very beginning, and I'm pretty sure, I'm like 95% sure I said this at the time of the trade. I was like, if we're going to extend Reddick, I think this is a bad trade. I would have just kept Huff. If we are running him back on a
100%.
1 year contract with his back against the wall, love that. Let him ride off into the sunset after this year. Let him ball his ass out and try to earn the contract he wants. Or if you want to run it back for another year, hit him with the franchise tag after the season. Like, I'm fine. I would rather franchise tag Reddick after this year and like guarantee this season. Now, after all this is going on right now, I don't want to have him for an additional year. I just want to hope that Will McDonald does show out enough this year so that way I can feel comfortable without having to bring in too many assets next year. But for me, Reddick's a 1 year deal. It's a mercenary type contract. I think the best thing we would have done is what Connor Hughes reported on initially was, hey, we're going to guarantee you some money based on what your contract would have been. We'll throw in some injury guarantees or whatever, maybe some incentives if you're here and performing well. He tried to spin it, or maybe the Jets told him to spin it in a certain way where it's like, hey, we'll try to give you like a John Franklin Myers type contract halfway through the season. I don't think that was ever in the cards, because I think Douglas is looking ahead a little bit to Breece and Garrett and Sauce and JJ, and knowing too big of a commitment to Reddick right now probably is not a wise decision. I think it was always going to be a 1 year rental, and I think that's probably what Reddick eventually came to the conclusion of and realized he needs to hold out if he wants to get more money. I think it's an ill-advised move based on like where the Jets' leverage is right now. We only gave up a 2026 third-round pick. As much as I don't want to lose that, the Jets are going to be like, yo, sit your ass on the bench, or like don't come in, whatever. We're going to figure it out with or without you here. But if you want your money, you're going to play for us.
Yeah, no, I see your logic in that, and it's the truth. I just never really clearly understood up to August 12th what was the game plan with this, and it seems like in the end the truth is it is really a 1 year deal. I'm just looking from the standpoint of if there was a fair compromise, like we had to do with Darrelle Revis, we had to give him some kind of incentive money, extra year. That's what we did. So it's the closest blueprint I can come, even though we're following the Mike Tannenbaum route. The fact is, Joe Douglas should have had a plan with this before. That's where his blame has to come in, regardless of them saying, like, I'm making the ethical decision for the team to make sure that I'm not just throwing money at something that we need to pay Sauce and Jermaine Johnson and Garrett. Absolutely wanted, like, if the homegrown kids need to be paid. I'm just saying at least that those kids don't have to really get paid for at least 2 more years. So you're at least giving Reddick that shot, 2 stabs, and getting somewhat paid with his guaranteed money with the Jets. That would have made the most sense to me. I thought that, I said this with J.K. Asman. I said this multiple times with other people. That would have made the most sense. That should have gotten done before training camp So if Son Reddick is legitimately just saying, I want the Brian Burns deal, or I'm just going to say kick rocks and I'll just go into, I mean, it's not the Chris Jones situation. I mean, Chris Jones, I mean, the Chiefs really didn't have many defensive players, studs like him outside of it. Plus, the week 1 game, they were like, oh, we lost to the Lions, we had to win. But anyway, look, I just think that their situation now is it's kind of unfortunate because now the risk of injury plays into this game. The Jets know that. Haason Reddick knows that. Haason Reddick doesn't care because he's just like, okay, I'll just collect checks while I, sit at the Florham Park and rest my hamstring. I mean, but at the same time, he also understands he's risking the money. And I'm just going to throw one more idea out here, and maybe I'm crazy to say this, and I've already mentioned this to a few of my friends tonight. I call Tom Telesco and just say, hey, where are we on Davante Adams? Like, can we just get a sense, like, maybe where this is going? Because he's disgruntled. We got a disgruntled player. You got a defensive-minded coach. Pair him with Crosby. You've got they have the 5th most money in the salary cap. So they can actually take on the contract if they really want. So the question is just, are they saving that money for when they're trying to get a quarterback next year, whether it's in the draft or free agency? Are they trying to get Davante Adams numbers off the books? I know everyone will say, like, I'm just picking that because we want to get Davante Adams, but as I did some research in the last hour, it does make some sensible point to doing it. But at the end of the day, they're going to say, Joe, we're going to try to go into the season, see what we can do. If we're a complete colossal train wreck by week 5 or 6 and you guys are crushing or something, okay, we can come back to that conversation. That makes the most sense. So that's just one other, like, curveball, like, okay, we have nowhere to go with this. Maybe we'll consider it then, because then we get the player we actually do really want to help Rodgers and the offense win.
So I got a question for you. As far as I don't disagree with that, but I think my one stance would be like, I'd rather trade an asset for Davante and get him here that way than have to worry about trading for sorry, I put someone in the back. Jerry, I'll get to you in just a second. I would not want to set the precedent as a GM that, hey, you kick and scream and hold out and do things the wrong way, lie to us, that you're going to get what you want. Even though we're not the ones paying Haason Reddick's contract, we're going to trade him and get him the money he wants by trading him away. Like, I don't want to see that happen. I would rather, like, stick to my guns, say, hey, you're playing here. We traded you. We made a deal. This is what's going to happen. Let's figure it out man to man, and let's go win a ring. That's how you're going to do it. That's how you're going to maximize your contract the most, is by playing next to Quinnen Williams, playing next to Javon Kinlaw, playing opposite Jermaine Johnson, and balling out this year with Aaron Rodgers. So that would be my only hesitation in terms of, like, a trade, even if it were to get something that we do want back in return. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think in the end, if we said in March or April, it was between Haason Reddick or Davante Adams, you would say Davante Adams. Like, I wanted him.
Sure.
While everybody was talking about, going for Brandon Ayuk, I said I think Davante Adams is still on the table. I'm still going to keep saying that until like Halloween or before whatever the trade deadline is. Before Halloween.
I think it's the first week of November now. They bumped it back.
Okay, so it's like around, like, we play Halloween against Stroud, and then so like, like after that game could be the best way to show you, like, okay, if we are like just lose to the Texans at home, but it's a competitive game and they're like 6 wins, make the move for Davante, because you got to make the difference of beating CJ Stroud in that offense. But my point is just, I think that is something this team needs more than anything than just we really didn't have to create the situation we kept Huff. I'm sorry. Like, I'm gonna keep saying we could have signed Huff 2 years ago and we wouldn't be in the situation. Or people have said we could have signed Jadeveon Clowney. If we wanted a 1-year guy, take Jadeveon Clowney. So there's just many ways we could have got about this. We took the risk, and Joe Douglas and Howie Roseman, I've said already over and over again, they have, they know each other. I don't know what they said. I don't know what they discussed. I'm just saying that it's worth get on the phone with Tom Telesco, have a conversation. If Boomer thinks they can make some move, even though I think he's full of crap, just open the conversation. Look, if we can't do this now, we'll come back to you in 5-6 weeks. We'll see if things will go there. And if Davante's like, taking his helmet and literally just throwing it at, like, the Gatorade people, and it's not getting better, then I think at that point you can say, all right, come on, man, like, what's this going to take? So he's not happy. So
yeah, I agree. I think it happens closer to the trade deadline. Jake, thank you so much for the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. All right, Jake, thank you so much for hanging out. I've got Jerry behind the scenes. I'm just trying to, I think I got to unmute you. All right, you're good there. And then, boom, Jerry, thank you so much for calling in.
Hey, what's going on, Ryan? How you doing?
Doing all right. How are you feeling about this whole Haason Reddick situation?
So I feel really like I hope that we do get this taken care of, and he like starts week 1. It was unfortunate that he had to like ask for a trade. I was hoping that he would just miss all training camp and just come up for week 1 and play for us. But that unfortunately didn't happen, and he wanted to just throw the ball in our court. And I feel like he just wants to see what. I feel like he was just thinking that we were like the same old Jets, and we were like flinch and like make the wrong move. But like Joe D stood on business. He is not like gonna trade this dude and give him what he wants. He's gonna stay here, come to week 1 and play for the Jets. And if you're not gonna do that, you're gonna lose out a lot of money. That's on him.
I think it's the right way to go about it too. I mean, it really sucks because I think all the Jet fans were like, dude, when we get Reddick in, like, well, they'll figure something out, they'll iron something out. I really hope they do, but at this point, if I'm JD, I'm like kind of digging my heels in and being like, all right, I'll show you, mother trucker. This is what's gonna happen right now.
For real, like Jody stood on business. He needs to like really like get this taken care of, and if he does show up week 1, I hope he does like actually give it all, like his all, and actually cares for the team. But if he doesn't care, because he can not care and just show up and be like, I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna get my money and not do anything.
Yeah,
I hope hopefully that doesn't happen.
My helmet doesn't fit, like the old Antonio Brown type
hamstring
thing.
Injury.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like in practice, he can fake a hamstring injury, and then we don't want that. Like he can do it. He has like some type of leverage, but he really doesn't have leverage at all. It's all on us right now. It's basically we gotta get this together like as soon as week 1.
Imagine a guy that just wants like the biggest contract possible, sits out an entire year, doesn't get the contract he wants, and now he's got a full calendar year plus potentially 4 games at the end of last season that people are questioning about him. And like, what kind of contract this dude's gonna get at 31 years old after bailing on 2 teams? Like, this guy knows we got his balls in a vice grip.
Yeah, even if he sits out all season and doesn't play for us, like what kind of team is gonna want that player on their team? Like
not to mention his contract then tolls. Like we would have him under contract for 2025 unless he like shows up and does a hold in for like the final 6 weeks. I think you have to play 6 weeks for the team to like count as an accrued season. I feel like that's the rule.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Well, I hope he comes to his senses and realizes the mistake that he's doing, and he's just losing out a lot of money, and just shows up week 1 and just shows that he cares for the team and he wants to win and wins a Super Bowl with us.
Before I want to get your thoughts on the preseason game with the Commanders. What do you think of Braylon Allen, Olu, and the boys?
Oh, Braylon Allen, that guy's. I hope he doesn't outshine Brees. I feel like he's outshining Brees Hall right now.
That's because Brees isn't playing. That's what Brees is probably like. I'll take a little bit more of a back seat right now. I don't get
he's
beat
just like
up.
Sitting back a little. Yeah, he's just like, I'm gonna let him shine for a little bit, but I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna show him what I'm about. So
dude, when we get
I hope,
those 2 guys on the field at the same time, you put them on either side of Aaron. That's a scary offense with Mike Williams and Garrett.
It's gonna be dangerous, man. And I can't wait for Aaron Rodgers to use that to his advantage. And I like this other lineman that we have, Taylor.
Oh,
that guy's
dude,
nasty. He showed a lot of highlights. I like that.
Yeah, he had what? I think he had 1 sack and 2 tackles for a loss, or maybe it was 2 sacks.
I think he had 2 sacks.
It might have been 2 sacks. He's just a stud, dude. If he can continue to play that way the next 2 games of the preseason, he's going to wind up making this roster.
Absolutely, and I hope we just build that defensive line and make sure we get that depth and everybody stays healthy this season. We can win that Super Bowl.
Crossed from your mouth, from your words.
It was good meeting you, Ryan. Good talking
nice talking to you, dude. Jerry, you've been ejected from the cockpit. Thank you so much for popping on. How do I do this? Boom, I think I can do that. All right. Say it's me trying to figure out how this new system works. Boys and girls, if you haven't headed over? If you didn't know, BetUS, the sponsor of the channel this year, going to be doing some fun bets throughout the season. The one that we've been focusing on, the Aaron Rodgers plus 30 touchdowns. If you head over to BetUS, link in the description down below, use my little URL code thingy down there. They're going to match three deposits up to $2,000. So a total of $2,000. So if you did like $1,000, $500, they'll match 125% up to $2,000. And for 30 touchdowns and Aaron Rodgers, bet $100, get $160 back if he hits it. That's no brainer for me. I got my top 5 bets of the season linked in the description down below. So if you want to check those out, you can see exactly what I'm going with for this year. Yo, it's Vin. What's good, dude? Says, I think 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐥𝐢𝐥𝐢 Haason Reddick caves and joins preseason game 4. There's only 3 preseason games, so preseason game 4 would technically be the regular season. Hopefully. Fingers crossed, dude. I want to see him back in action. I don't want to see this whole holdout crap. Super annoying. Boys and girls, if you're just tuning in, make sure you hit that like button. Let's go into some of the topics for, I shouldn't say topics, but what we've heard from Haason Reddick, right? This is the video clip from Haason Reddick when he came to the New York Jets initially.
How do you look at it? Is it you're on the last year of your contract, like you said, business. Is this a place you hope is a long-term home? Are you looking at this like a one-year situation? Or do you believe there's a chance you can get an extension done?
You know, all options are open. Right now, currently just worried about being here, meeting everybody that's in the building today. Contractual stuff, I'm leaving that up to my agent and Joe to figure out. You know, but whatever happens, I'm going to be happy for. I'm going to give my all, no matter what. That's just who I am as a person. So no matter how it goes, how many years, I'm going to be here for however long I'm here for, and I'm going to give the team, the fans, everything that I have.
He's going to give the team, the fans, everything that he has. That was a lie. Joe Douglas coming out with a statement earlier today. We have informed Haason we will not trade him, and he's expected to be here with his teammates and that he will continue to be fined per the CBA if he does not report. Since trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here as we prepare for the regular season. Joe Douglas, this is the perfect statement to put out. But I will say, based on Will McDonald's performance in the preseason, I am a little more concerned over where we currently stand with our edge rush room. So I'm not feeling super warm and fuzzy on this, but I do think that the Jets are holding all the cards here. The worst case scenario for us is we have a defense without Haason Reddick, which I'll be honest, once we lost Bryce Huff, I didn't think we were adding another edge rusher anyway. Maybe we would have kept JFM instead, but it felt like that was possibly going to be a cap casualty move either way. Apparently, we didn't even put forward an offer to JFM per JFM himself. Yeah, look, I don't know. Super frustrating. Super frustrating. Bob comes in and says, I expect Reddick to return 2 weeks before the deadline to get an accrued season, something on the order of week 10. I believe that's what it is. I think it's 6 weeks is what you need to be here to accrue a season. So if he comes in week 11 and he's always got hamstring injuries and stuff like that, then I guess he will have foregone all his money up to that point. And then since his money's not guaranteed, I don't know if he gets paid for just like being here and not performing, because it's not like he has injury guarantees either. But either way, it would accrue a season, then he'd be a free agent at the end of the year. So that could be what we wind up looking at. J-Rod says, Reddick has good numbers. A GM will want those numbers on his defense. I agree, but I also don't want our GM to cave to someone that is holding us over a barrel. I don't want us to be used like that in the future. I don't want the Jets to be seen that way. I don't want to see Douglas be seen that way. I very much do not want to trade Haason Reddick. I'd rather let him rot on the bench and let him destroy his value than get back what are we going to get, a 4th round pick in 2026 or something like that? We'll end up losing value on it. I'd be pretty upset. Chai-sun says, you trade Reddick to the Bears. We'll pay him 5 years, $125 million, 3 years fully guaranteed. What are you going to give me in return? I don't particularly want to trade Reddick, but if you're going to willingly give him that much money, you better be willing to part with something kind of nice. Bill D says, I suspect Reddick's agent is being unreasonable. From what I heard from Frankie, from Flatbush, Reddick's agents are like pros. So this could just be coming from Reddick's camp himself and saying, like, I know I'm worth more than that. I'm worth double what I'm currently getting paid. I'm not playing on this current contract. Ask Le'Veon Bell how that went. J-Rod, I lost every bet on Aaron Rodgers last year after a few snaps. Yeah, me too. I had Jets winning the Super Bowl. Not fun. Deep Space. Reddick is a Philly fan. He actually took less money to play for the Eagles. I think he's mad at the Eagles for trading him. So here's the common thought, right? If Haason Reddick was happy with his current contract and was willing to play on it, he wouldn't have been traded from Philly. It's sort of true, sort of a little smoke and mirrors to some degree, because I think the $15 million cap hit was the bigger issue. Would he have played on a $15 million not base salary, but let's say he got $15 million this year, but it was paid out in like a signing bonus, but he also got extra money on the side for like future years? I think he'd prefer to stay in Philly. I think the Jets, knowing we had him over a barrel because we could absorb the $15 million cap hit, and we gambled on the fact that we think this guy's going to want to ball out this year to win either a Super Bowl or to just parlay this into more money. And I think we took a calculated, risk on this. I said it at the time. I think it's a risky move, but I like the move because I think he's going to have to play. He's not going to just bail on his team for the final 4 games of last year, bail on this entire season, and someone's going to pay him $28 million at 31 years old. I don't think that's how it's going to go down. YouTube comes in and says, I also wanted Braylon badly, but we should have got a safety instead of another running back after Braylon. So, I don't remember the draft at this point anymore as far as who was available when we made that second selection. I do know that Hackett wanted Isaiah Davis at the Braylon Allen pick. They went into the offensive coach's room and said, hey, Hackett, you got to come downstairs. We're drafting a running back right now. And he's like, oh, cool. We're getting the Jackrabbit. And it wasn't Isaiah Davis. He's like, oh, like, why aren't we going with him? And we wound up taking Braylon Allen. And then, one pick, one selection later or 2 selections later, whatever it wound up being, we wound up getting Davis. So the Jets knew they wanted running backs. I think part of it was because they knew they were getting rid of the fullback and they wanted to be able to have that blocking back while also having a nice stable of running backs, because I don't think they believed in Izzy. I don't think you draft 2 running backs in one draft if you have faith in Izzy. Aaron says, how do you think D-line would look right now without Reddick? I mean, it's how it looks right now. It's how it currently looks. I don't love it, but it's not terrible. Still, like, this defense is still going to cause teams fits. Once you put Quinnen on the line too and Kinlaw, like, it's going to change a lot. And Jermaine's a beast too. Like, we have a really good defensive line. It's just Reddick puts us over the top. Harlan says Jets didn't have Reddick last season, still had a good defense. In fact, Jets beat the Eagles, who had Reddick. Not to mention, we were down our 2 corners. We didn't have Reed or Sauce for that game. J-Rod says Jermaine will be a 10-plus sack player this year. I completely agree. I think Jermaine's going to go off. Jermaine's one of my favorite players. I told you, if Sauce wasn't there at 4, I would have taken Jermaine at 4. And I wouldn't have looked back. I would have been fine with that. Clancy says, keep Reddick's ass on ice. Yeah, I'm not folding to him. I would not fold to Haason Reddick. I don't think it's a smart move. I would let him show up before we start negotiating at all. Prestige says Haason Reddick, like it or not, makes this front 7 into a terrifying unit. We still have quality players, but we're putting in too much faith in these young guys who haven't proven yet. Haven't been proven anything yet. I agree. Haason Reddick puts us over the top. He's an elite edge rusher and deserves his money. I'm not going to argue that this guy doesn't deserve $25 million a year. I'm just saying I don't want to pay him that much because of the cap situation the Jets are currently in and the players we want to pay behind him. So sorry, dude. Not about it. Dano says, if they gave us enough to get Adams for free capital-wise, would you do it? So you're saying like the Davante Adams for Reddick straight up? I mean, I guess that fixes the vibe negativity of it all, and you get to Davante Adams before the beginning part of the season. I just don't see why the Raiders would do that. I think the Raiders are going to hold on to Davante until they're mathematically eliminated. I also heard a rumor that they're in on Dak Prescott if he winds up getting moved. Or if there's some kind of boiling point situation. I don't know if Dak would get cut or if he would just play out this season and then be done with Dallas. There might be a situation where they say, hey, we know we're going to get Dak next year. And if Davante can make it through, then you've got Dak as your quarterback and you're staying here. But I do think they're going to wind up trading him halfway through the season. I think he's going to wind up being a Jet. But would I trade Reddick for Adams? I don't want to. I'd rather give up a draft pick, honestly. I think Reddick is more valuable playing, and I can get Davante with a second, third round pick, whatever it is. Wild Wave says his agent is a pro dummy. That's what it seems like. Fresh says, Javon Baker, we had a chance to get. We did. That was before we traded down. No, we did. We would have had to trade up. I think he was taking one pick ahead of us, was he not? I think the Patriots took him, and then we wound up trading down. I think that was the order of events. I guess we could have taken him instead of Corley, but because we traded up for Corley, so I guess you could have taken Baker at that point. But I think Baker went like one pick in front of the Jets after that selection. J-Rod says we're going to get some coverage sacks this year with our secondary. We are, but the goal, first and foremost, I think, is to apply pressure to cause bad throws to get turnovers. I would rather the turnover than the sack, but, you know, both of them good plays, so kind of splitting hairs there. Clancy says, we got an extra third next year, though. Some consolation for missing out on Baker or another wide receiver in the fourth. That pick is what's going to be traded for Davante, I think. It'd be some combination of that. Prestige says, guys, we got to stop talking like we're moving on from Reddick. He's going to play. He might be cutting off his nose, but he won't cut off the remaining time left of his career. I agree. I think he's going to ultimately show up and play. Oh, look at Dano. Ryan, you're so sensible and rational. Your barometer is right where mine is over Reddick. Sitch. Dude, I'm mad at Reddick. I want his ass on ice. I don't care. Clancy says, I'm not moving on from nothing, but he needs to meet in the middle, the mega deal he's not getting from us. Yeah, he's got to know he's not getting it. I would imagine his agents probably told him at the time, like, hey, this is probably a 1-year deal, and you got to prove it. Like, you got to be willing to play on this $15 million contract. Maybe you say the right things, and they sign you something before the, training camp portion. That didn't happen. I don't know. Either way, I called it. I said it when we first traded for him. I was like, this is a 1-year contract. This is all I would be doing. I would franchise tag him after the year if I needed to, if Rodgers decides to play again and everything, worked out the way it should have. So I would imagine Douglas was probably thinking the same thing, and Reddick may not have thought the same thing initially, but I think that's where the tea leaves were directing us. Aaron, I don't think he's showing age. I think the whole Eagles team just fell apart. Whatever went on behind the scenes. So it's not so much that he's showing his age. I heard that he took his foot off the gas the last 4 weeks. That was a knock that I had heard some Eagles fans talk about. So I don't know how much I could believe it if he really felt like, hey, I got to get my money at this point. I got to protect myself. You're not going to do it. That's just a bad thing to do as a football player. Because if I was a football team looking to pay someone $100 million or whatever, that's not the guy I want to give that money to, even if he's balling out. Clancy says, still though, with Adams on the offense would help out the D tremendously. We'd lighting up the scoreboard. Yeah, I guess that's sort of the other side of this coin, right? Like if you trade away Haason Reddick, but you get a Davante Adams in that trade, you still maintain your asset that I thought we would have given up for Davante anyway. So would you try to swing that other pick for another player somewhere along the lines? I feel like I'd rather force Haason Reddick to play and then wind up giving up a future pick to get Devontae also. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. That's what I want. Dylan Grace, what do you think of this new guy, Taylor? I like him. We talked about him when we first signed him, what was it, 2 months ago? Is that right? June? I think it was June. I'm pumped. He the knock on Taylor is takes off plays. I think he had 18 snaps as a pass rushing 3 technique in college, or maybe it was just last year, and he had like some insanely high metrics. So if the Jets are going to use him in that expanded capacity, I think that's the right way to go. Zach says, Ryan, if we didn't draft Will McDonald last year and took a wide receiver, this problem doesn't exist. We re-sign Huff, keep JFM, everything goes back to the Will McDonald pick. So I think it goes back before that. I think it goes back to the second round tender that we placed on Bryce Huff. I think the minute we did that, we tipped our hand and we said, hey, look, someone come get him for a second round pick. He's here for 1 more year. And I think Huff saw that. And I think the Jets then drafted a first round pick in Will McDonald, which I did not like at the time. I still don't like it. I would have preferred either Addison or the tackle from, I think it was Texas at the time, was still available. Or maybe it was Tennessee, whatever. There were still some players that I would want. If it were my move, I would not have traded for Aaron Rodgers prior to the draft because I think Aaron Rodgers was coming to the Jets either way. And I think you could have kept your 13 pick and had Broderick Jones at 13 because I don't know if the Steelers would have traded in front of 13 to get him in front of the Jets at that point. But I would have taken Broderick Jones, traded for Aaron on the eve of training camp, which means you probably don't wind up with an Olu Fashanu, realistically, because you probably would have had to give up the first round pick in this past year's draft. Although maybe you argue that if we had better offensive linemen, Rodgers doesn't go down and it's not a top 10 pick. But I see what you're saying, right? If you had extended Huff, you get a wide receiver, and then you wind up keeping John Franklin Myers. That's the preferred route I would have wanted in an alternate timeline. Respect Shaq says, Jets were informed he would have played on his current contract, but it was a miscommunication. Shake my effing head. I don't think it's a miscommunication. I think it was a readjustment of priorities on Reddick's part. And I think he knew it. I think he knew what he was doing once we traded JFM. Hype says the only way we get Adams is if the Raiders get Aiyuk. That would be a wild set of circumstances. I don't know if you could trade Reddick to the 49ers and Aiyuk goes to the Raiders and Devontae comes to us and you figure out whatever the trade compensation would have to be to make all that make sense. Be cool as hell. Wild Wave says, New England sniped Baker in front of us. We had to trade up 2 spots. Yeah, it was 1 pick in front of us is where he wound up going. Because that was someone I would have considered double dipping with. Hype is saying the push up the middle with Kinlaw next to Q will help out the edge rushers get more sacks. Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for Kinlaw. I think Kinlaw was a good pickup. I don't love the contract that we signed him to, but I do think that it was the right move from a strategic standpoint from a guy that's ascending going into a contract year. J-Rod says, Reddick won't play for the Jets beyond this year. One and done. As long as we win a Super Bowl, I'm okay. Yeah, look, I want to win a Super Bowl above all else, so I could care less what happens with Haason Reddick after this. But I always wanted the 1-year deal. Kimberly says, does anyone else worry if Garrett Wilson can handle the physicality of being a wide receiver 1? I'm not concerned. I think he can definitely be a wide receiver 1. As far as top fantasy player on who I'm looking at, it's going to be Breece Hall. And not to mention, our focal point on offense is going to be Breece Hall. We're going to utilize Conklin. We're going to utilize Garrett a lot. We're going to utilize Mike Williams. So we're going to have a lot of assets. Braylon Allen's balling out. We're going to have a lot of weapons. So I wouldn't be too hung up on Garrett being the only number 1. I think there's going to be situations where you have Mike Williams and Allen Lazard on the outside and Garrett pops into the slot. I think you'll see that too. Prestige. Ryan, do you think the Jets will end up getting Devontae Adams midseason? Raiders fans act like it has no chance to happen unless we pay them multiple first. I don't think Adams goes for more than a third. So the issue is going to be Raiders fans are wrong right now. My one buddy does think Devontae's worth it first. He's a Raiders fan, and I just said, no, it's just not happening. His contract's outrageous. He would be at 37 and like $36 million the next 2 years. So realistically, what's going to happen is you're going to see if the Raiders are in contention, they'll hold on to Adams till the end of the year and then maybe renegotiate his contract. I think if they are not in it, he's either going to get traded to the Jets or they're going to hold him against his will and he's going to say, go kick rocks. I'm not like changing my contract. And then they're going to be forced to cut him for nothing. And then at that point, then I think the Jets get him for nothing next offseason if they don't trade for him ahead of time. Now, maybe that contract doesn't impact your cap right away, or they could figure out a way to move numbers around, and then they want to try and trade him closer to the draft or whatever. And I don't know. I think he gets traded midseason this year. That's where I think the sweet spot is. Dano, Ryan, I don't see too many other Jermaine truthers. Love it. For me, he's ahead of Garrett in priority list because he's hard to replace in current NDL. Current NFL? Is that what you're saying? NDL. So I've said this before, and I don't love saying it, but I'll tell you the truth on it. I really think Sauce is a lifetime Jet. I think that's going to happen. I think Jermaine is the next piece to that puzzle that will probably be here a long term. I do think Sauce and Breece get their contracts first. I think Garrett may have to wait a year on it just because of how much guaranteed money would have to be lumped all at once, because all that guaranteed money has to go into escrow. And I don't know if Woody's going to pay it all out all at one time. But I think Garrett very much depends on where we are as a team from a team building standpoint. Do we have a quarterback ready to go after Aaron Rodgers? Because if we don't, I don't think Garrett's going to want to play with a rookie quarterback that isn't going to be able to play. Like, he doesn't want to play with Zach Wilson 2.0 again. And at that point, if Saleh is no longer here, who knows if Douglas is here or not? I hope he is. I hope both guys are around. But I could see a situation where either Garrett is a lifetime Jet or Garrett gets traded for a lot of assets to help us reload after this run. And that's sort of a two-way thing. Like, we could pay him, but he might have to deal with shit quarterback play for a few years, which I would prefer, honestly. I don't really want to hit the reset button. We've been looking for a good wide receiver forever. But I do think Jermaine's here long-term, and I think Sauce is here long-term. I think it'll wind up being a little different with Garrett and Breece just because of the way the offense and our window currently looks. J-Rod says, 99 felt like we would have won a Super Bowl. Yep, it did. It definitely did. Same with 2010. I thought 2010 we were going to get it too. Hype says, Reddick left the Eagles because he did not get along with the defensive coordinator. Didn't they just bring in Fangio? So, did they get rid of their defensive coordinator? I could be wrong on that. Brandon R. The thing with Devontae is that he wants a new deal. He isn't a timing fit for the Jets. He would need to be on a rental deal. I think he would align his contract. We would give him a new contract. I think we would trade for him and say, hey, we're doing a 2-year contract if we're trading for you. I think that would be part of the stipulation. So I'm not overly concerned about Devontae. Boys and girls, if you have not done so already, if you want to click the link in the live chat, check out my 5 favorite bets this year coming from BetUS. They are sponsoring the channel this year. If you sign up with my link in the description down below, you'll get 125% match up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. They have a really fun prop this year. I shouldn't call it a prop, but an actual bet. 30 touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers plus 160. So you throw $100 on it, you could win 160 back. So you wind up making a profit of $60 if you think Aaron Rodgers can best 30 touchdowns. I think that's a pretty safe bet. He did it twice with Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator in Green Bay. I think we have an extra game right now, which means he's definitely going to do it here. We've only had one quarterback do it in our past. That was Ryan Fitzpatrick with 31 touchdowns in 2015. We're due. We are due. But head down into the description down below. Click on the link. If you want to help support the channel, maybe win yourself a little bit of money, head over to BetUS. Prestige said, I would have preferred JSN or Addison for the Jets over Will McDonald, but I didn't hate the pick. Sad thing is, Will McDonald looks like he might actually end up being a really good player. I really like Will McDonald. maybe he develops into a really good player. Haason Reddick initially was not a great player either on Arizona. It took him a few years to kind of figure it out. So I'm not giving up on Will McDonald. I will say, though, at the time, I wanted to extend Bryce Huff. I did not want to go edge rush in that draft. That was the one position Green Bean Matt and I said during the draft, leading up to that pick, the only position I'll get mad at is if we go with an edge rusher. And they announced him as a linebacker, which threw me for a loop. And then I realized it was an edge rusher. And I was still frustrated. I was like, this is not a good pick. We needed a tackle. We needed a wide receiver. Edge rush was not the priority right now. But Douglas knew he wasn't going to re-sign Huff and felt he needed his replacement. I don't know. I think we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. I'm very pro Will McDonald. I'm not as optimistic because I really like Jermaine Johnson and I saw the leap he made from year 1 to year 2, and I just don't see that with McDonald yet. Dano says, honestly, if I have the Raiders on the phone, I'm asking for Jacoby Myers first. What the? Get out of here, Dano. No.
That's it. You're out of here.
Get out of here. Aaron says, Garofalo just reported this could last into the regular season, so Reddick camp might be prepared to sit. Good. Let his ass fucking sit. I don't care. Screw him. Doesn't matter. Not trading him, not giving him more money. Jacob says, really frustrating, but now you can keep Leonard Taylor III and maybe get a good pick out of Reddick or a premium player. I really don't want to trade Reddick. I don't want to give him what he wants after what he's done to us so far. I'm a spiteful son of a bitch. So I would very much want to keep him, force him to play, and tank his career if he doesn't want to. J-Rod, he has Mike Williams, Lazard, will be better, Brees, Conklin, and a group of running backs. This offense is going to be legit. Offense is going to be really legit. J-Rod follows that up with Wilson, 1,200 yards. Williams, 900 yards. Conklin, 850. Lazard, 400. Gibson, 400. Ruckert, 300. That's pretty good spread. I was going to say, I don't think we're going to see Williams get to that 1,000-yard mark like some people were saying. I think we're going to run so much on the ground. Like, Brees is going to have probably 2,000 yards total between running and receiving. So I think that eats up a nice chunk of the potential yardage. But I think Wilson's numbers will be at least 1,200. I think you could see him close to 5. I think Williams you could see at 800. Conklin, 850 feels like a lot for him. I think maybe you see it around 600. Lazard, I guess that's probably right. And then Gibson, that might even be a little high for Gibson too. But I like where your head's at. What would that put us at total yardage? That's 21. Figure 3. It's a little over 4,000 yards, right? Like 4,200 yards. That's what you're projecting. I could see it. I think there's going to be some more Brees included into this, but yes, I like where your head's at here. Putting your money guy in the slot is asking for trouble. No, not necessarily. I mean, you get more free releases from the slot, and you can go any which direction. So I feel like a shifty player like Garrett, I mean, you don't want him going across the middle and getting cracked by a safety, but you give him, some more opportunities. A little more variation in the route tree, if you will. Dylan, what's good? Garrett gets injured, knock on wood. We should give Las Vegas whatever we can as soon as we can. Yeah, if Garrett gets hurt, I mean, if he seriously gets hurt, we're in a world of hurt. That's what it comes down to. If he's just banged up for a little bit, I would lean on Brees. I don't need to overpay for Devontae. I think a second-round pick is probably as high as I would go. I would say, hey, look, if we make the the playoffs, you get a first-round pick. Fine, whatever. I have to give up pick 22, 23 at that point. I think I'd be all right. Sharif says, I strongly believe if he would have just showed up fellowship bond with a meet the team, get to know everybody a little bit, I believe the Jets would have set him straight by now. Yeah, maybe. I mean, at the same time, if you're Reddick and you're trying to make the most informed business decision, you probably don't want to have the emotions of having teammates weigh on that business decision. You probably want to make it from a clear head process. I just think his thought process is faulty. I understand why he wants more money. I just think it was a faulty thought process. And then there's J-Rod coming in with the 1,200 yards rushing, 700 yards receiving for Brees. So that's the 2,000 mark that I think we will hit. And I think that's probably close. It might be like 1,300 and like 700 receiving or something along those lines. But we're gonna be in a good spot with Brees. Prestige. I always felt whenever the Jets made deep runs, we lost because of our quarterback. Brandon Graham, down 10 versus the Bills, said, "You don't know Jalen Hurts. Wish we could be confident in our quarterback play just once." Yeah, it would be nice to like really like. Oh God, I want Aaron to just go off for like 50 touchdowns this year. Give me like one of the last years of Peyton Manning, not the final. Well, the final year we won a Super Bowl, so let's do that. If I get Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning out of Aaron Rodgers for these next 2 years, and one of these 2 years winds up with a Super Bowl, that's what I want. I would love to have a season where we get like 45 to 50 touchdowns. Just an insane season. Because we never got it. We have one quarterback in our entire franchise's history that's cleared the 30 touchdown mark. This is like a standard that some people hit every year. And we've done it one time with a journeyman. Crazy. Oreo, how sad. The Jets have been around since 1959, and in that span, we have only had one quarterback over 30 touchdowns. Pathetic. Can't help but laugh. We are due. Yes, I'm on board with you. Johnny Boy asking, would we entertain Judon as a Jet? I don't really want to send Haason Reddick to New England. I'll be honest. Judon's 2 years older, looking for a contract as well. I don't think Judon would want to play on a 1 year, $15 million contract, which is what I think the Jets would want to do if there was any flip, because that's sort of the number they've had in their head as far as what is going to work for this season. I wouldn't trade for Judon. Let's just go and run it back with, not run it back, but let's run it with Reddick. And if he doesn't want to play, he doesn't play. He sits on the bench. He, bitches and moans, and he doesn't get any more money next year. Oreo, Ryan, how did you feel about being in the Jets video? Be honest. What was the reaction? Dude. So if you guys didn't know, I posted a video of the Jets season ticket commercial. It was a Ticketmaster Visa commercial in conjunction with like selling Jets season tickets. Sitting there watching it. I'll be honest, I missed it initially because I was doing the every throw, and I got tagged in something on Twitter, and I was like, So let me go back and see what I just missed. So no one tagged me in a clip or anything. It was just I had to go back and see what the commercial was. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then like it ends on me going, wow, from last year's home opener. I was like, that's so cool. I said it to like my mom, my brother. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm on TV, at least for a little bit. I was pumped. All right, let's see. We got Mike backstage. Let's just connect his camera and get him added in over here. Let's do. All right, Mike, how you doing, dude?
Good. Sorry, it's been a while. I know.
No, it's all right. I'm doing this new way to do the video chat, and it's a little clunky. I'm still working my way through it right now.
I mean, I like it. It works for me. So as long as you can hear me, we're good.
Loud and clear. What are your thoughts on Reddick?
I don't want to talk about Haason like that much.
Okay.
You signed a contract. Respect the contract. I'm so sick and tired of players doing this. You haven't played a snap for us. We owe you nothing. If I was in Joe Douglas's shoes, I know it's not possible. I would trade him for a third-round pick and cut my loss now. I'm already tired of him. But he's going to hold out, lose all his money. I don't really care. He's going to end up playing. He's not going to hold out and then take a year older. You've seen that never works. Look at Le'Veon Bell. It's not going to happen. He'll probably sit out all training, throw a big fit, lose millions of dollars, and then end up playing, and we'll never talk about this again. So that's my take. I'm more worried. I have a question for you.
Sure.
If Mekhi Becton ends up being a starting guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is where Joe Douglas came from, who is known for building an offensive line, is that a bigger indictment on the Philadelphia Eagles or us not being able to get him to where he could have been?
I think it was I think it's a little bit of a both issue where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we drafted him to be a tackle. You take him in the first round to be a tackle. He was a tackle in college. It's kind of where your head was at. But I also think it was on Mekhi Becton too. He had a little bit of leverage in being that he was a first round pick. When his ass got, gone from the Jets, now he's eating a little bit of humble pie. He's like, well, I just got to make a team. Like if I can't be a tackle, I got to be a guard. So it would suck if he was like an all pro guard and we could have used him here. We could have had AVT and him and, you could have gone a different route or something along those lines. But I think Becton with the injuries, it just unfortunately couldn't work out with us. And I don't think Becton did himself any favors while he was here.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting the look because I'm just really afraid when I look at this Jets team. I look at Joe Douglas's tenure, and I'm not trying to be a cynic or anything. I think we have a good team. I want to see meaningful games. I want to see playoff football, but we're looking a lot like what the Saints did back in 2017, but they had one great draft class, and then they just have fallen off the face of the earth after that draft class. And it's kind of like the same thing. They had that 2017 draft class with Ramczyk, Kamara, Lattimore, and then they got Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame quarterback, kind of just like Aaron Rodgers. And then after Drew Brees left, the same thing happened. It's like I don't want to say that for the Jets, but just like I need to see a little bit more from our draft class, including Will McDonald, and especially from him. Because one of the reasons that Haason Reddick is doing this is because McDonald is giving him the leverage to do this because he's so piss poor in play right now.
Do you think that Haason Reddick was paying attention to my every snap video and saw Will McDonald and everyone getting pissed off? And I'm the reason why Haason Reddick is asking for a trade?
Not just that, but when John Franklin Myers got traded, look at it that way. So you got Williams and you got JJ. And it's like, well, the other two guys are gone and McDonald's not working out. You need me. So now he's playing his leverage card. He had zero leverage going into this. And the Jets didn't give him leverage, but at the same time, they created this scene because they've released guys, and then Will McDonald's been underperforming. So now it's like, okay, if you want a guy who can actually get after the quarterback, that is what you need, Salah. You need the defensive ends that you talk about so much. Well, then I'm going to hold out for more money because I fit what you need, and you can't do it without me.
Yeah,
so I think it's kind of like
there's a leverage thing for sure for what Reddick's trying to do. Like I get it. That my whole issue with. I don't think it's working. I think it's a bad calculation because the Jets can just say like, dude, kick rocks. Like you're playing for $15 million or you're going to do the Le'Veon Bell thing and lose yourself a bunch of money. And like, you're going to have very limited options. I mean, I guess you only need one team to take that risk on you next year, but you got 4 weeks at the end of last year that people are questioning. And then an entire season this year. Like, dude,
I'm with
Jets
you.
are holding some cards.
I'm with you entirely. I'm just saying, like, Jets have all the leverage. They created this like idea of fake leverage that he's trying to run with, which makes no sense. That's my only take on that. It's just like the Jets gave him this fake idea, and he's just like, and I think Will McDonald will be okay. I think he'll recover. It just sucks right now with everything that's happening. But keep going with the show, man. I love you. I'll talk to you later.
Dude, take it easy, Mike. I appreciate the call. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Always fun to have you on, Mike. Mumtaz, thank you so much for the 10 spot, dude. Greatly appreciated. He says, never understood Reddick for Huff switch. We lose a 3rd round pick and a young up-and-coming player trying to earn his contract for the next big one versus a downhill player going for his last contract. JD messed up. So, Mumtaz, this is my stance on the Huff thing because I think Joe Douglas screwed up the Huff situation when we applied the 2nd round tender on him last offseason. Because when you give someone the 1st round tender, there's only like a $2 or $3 million difference between 1st round tender and 2nd round tender. 1st round tender implies you're not going anywhere. You're going to be a Jet. 2nd round tender implies someone come get this guy for a 2nd round pick. So that in and of itself probably put a bad taste in Huff's mouth. Just saying like, man, I'm not really worth that extra $3 million or whatever it was. Jonathan, I see you backstage. Give me just a second. I'll get to you. So he's saying, okay, well, what do you mean I'm not worth that extra $2-3 million that the 1st round tender could have been worth? Like, clearly you want to get rid of me. Then we draft Will McDonald in his place. And now I'm thinking Bryce Huff saying, well, screw everyone. I'm out of here. I'm not renegotiating. I'm not figuring out a contract with you. So I think that ship sailed prior to the start of last year's regular season. Huff was never going to sign a contract with us. So our move needed to be, hey, you have to make the playoffs and ball out with Bryce Huff here, or we should have traded Bryce Huff at the trade deadline to get anything back. And I said at the time, this is the move to make. You got to trade him. We didn't do it. Then after the season, as far as the logistics go with Bryce Huff and Haason Reddick, we hope that Bryce Huff would turn into what Haason Reddick currently is right now. Haason Reddick is a 3-down player. Bryce Huff is not. They're seeing issues with that in Philadelphia right now. The Jets didn't want to push big money on Haason Reddick's on Bryce Huff's new contract that would impede potentially re-signing Sauce, Garrett, Brees, JJ, those guys. With Haason Reddick, he's already on a $15 million contract, which is less than the annual average salary that Huff signed for, but it is substantially more than what the current cap hit is for each individual player because Huff signed the new deal with Philly, so his first year is a lot lower. Reddick is on the tail end of his contract. I think this was a calculated move by Joe Douglas after knowing he was losing Bryce Huff. And he said, hey, look, Reddick's not going to hold out. He wants his money. We're going to be able to have this guy, in a sense, over a barrel, right? Like, we know we can take that $15 million cap hit. He probably thought he was going to get released by the Eagles because the Eagles could not take on that $15 million cap hit. And then now we just got a pissed off guy that wanted to play for Philly, that didn't get his money, that doesn't, we're not going to pay him his money either. So I think Douglas screwed it up, but I think it was done before the Huff contract came into play, and it was more so the second round tender of last year. So I do agree with you, Mumtaz, just a slightly different timeline. I think calculated risk just kind of blew up in our face a little bit. All right, Jonathan, I'm going to get you in over here. Let's see if I can figure this out. All right, Jonathan, how you doing, dude?
Good, yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I'm a little stressed about Haason Reddick, but I want the Jets to play hardball, and I'm feeling good about where our young players are overall from the first preseason game. What are your thoughts?
I feel good about the players in the young preseason, but I'm not too worried. I really do think that the defensive line in general is really good. Mm-hmm. Even without Haason Reddick, I think Haason Reddick is a luxury. I think that's the term I've been using a lot, is a luxury.
Okay.
JFM was tough to lose, but I mean, we still got JJ, we've got Will McDonald. I think we're going to be good without them. And the interior of the defensive line is amazing, where I think they're going to take away some of the pressure from those edge rushers. The fact that we have so much depth at that interior line, I think it's going to take away the pressure. I think we're still going to have an elite defensive line with or without Haason Reddick.
So do you think he winds up holding out into the regular season? Do you think someone, kind of bends the knee earlier? How do you see this playing out?
See, one of two ways. So either Haason Reddick finds a team that wants to pay us at least that conditional third from 2026 to make it even, or he...
Uh-oh. Is that my computer or is that you?
Sorry.
Say that one more time. You froze on my side.
No, you're good. So I think that it might go in maybe to week 1, but if that, it's going to be him being foolish. It's all on him. He's going to be the one missing out on everything. He'll be missing out on success. It's all the pressure's on him. I really don't think there's any real pressure on the Jets unless we go into week 1 and we have no pressure to the quarterback at all, which I don't see that being the case. So there's no pressure on the Jets.
Now, what did you think about Will McDonald's performance? He was definitely a little, we had that 6-spin move, but overall didn't really see a whole lot from week 1.
Didn't see a whole lot from him, but I did see enough to say he could replace Bryce Huff. I think that he can be there on third down. I think he can be there on the second and longs, the first downs that are obvious passing situations. I think we can put him there. I don't want him to defend the run, mainly because he depends on that swim move a lot, and that's going to let out the edge way too often rather than not, and I don't want to see that happening. So I still like him, though. I'm not trying to complain. I still think he's going to be great for us, but that's the situation where he's going to be great for us.
Yeah, I think the third down replacement is really like that replacement for Huff. Reddick was kind of the nice little shiny toy of this guy could play all 3 downs. He's sort of a replacement for a JFM while also being a replacement for Huff, while allowing us to groom Will McDonald and not be so stressed if he doesn't perform right away.
Right.
What are your thoughts on it? Before I let you go, what are your thoughts on Devontae Adams? You think he's going to be a Jet this year?
Absolutely. I think Devontae Adams is a Jet by the trade deadline. I'm actually from Las Vegas, so I think he's going to be out of Vegas by the time we hit the deadline. Do you mind if I shout out a YouTube channel I just started making videos for the Jets?
Absolutely, dude. Shout it out.
It's called Sin City Jets. Since I'm out here from Las Vegas, it's Sin City Jets. I just went out with my third video. I think the first one's my favorite so far. It's comparing Darrelle Revis and Sauce. So,
oh, dude, I love it. I'll sub you up. Once I'm done with this stream, I'll head over to it. Sin City Jets. Boys and girls, make sure you check out Jonathan.
Sin City Jets.
Love it, dude. Brother, you have been
Thanks, man.
from the cockpit. Oh, I'm excited. I got to go check that out now. All right. Boys and girls, we are at the hour and a half mark right here. So without further ado, I do want to bring your attention to our BetUS sponsor. Head over to BetUS, link in the description down below. They'll match your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. They'll give you a 125% bonus match. I have my top 5 bets down in the description down below. You can check those out, see if you want to join me in rooting for some stuff season long. I'll show you guys some of them later on. But I want you guys to click on the link if you guys want to give me some feedback on those 5 particular wagers, which ones you like the most, which ones you don't like the most. But plus 160 for Aaron Rodgers to throw 30 touchdowns this year. I think it is a sure win. It's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers, we're going to finally break our touchdown record. It's not going to be Fitzpatrick. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers at the top of the list. He's going to have like a zillion touchdowns, rounding up to the nearest zillion. And then we're going to have 4,200 yards, something like that. That's the kind of season I want to see from him. 30 touchdowns, more than possible with this particular unit. Boys and girls, it's been a lot of fun talking with you tonight. I'm going to go hop in the shower, kick back, lay down, relax a little bit. I'll be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock with the Talking Jets panel, myself, 𝐂𝐟𝐼𝐷, and Green Bean. Talk a little Haason Reddick. Hopefully we've got a little bit more news tomorrow. Probably not anything crazy. But boys and girls, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you tonight. This is Jets Talk signing off. JETS.